أيها الموجوع صبرا إن بعد الصبر بشرى أيها الباكي بليل سوف يأتي النور فجرا.
بسم الله. عن عروة بن الزبير في قوله تعالى واخفض لهما جناح الذل من الرحمة قال صحيح الإسناد.
لا
قال لا تمتنع من شيء أحبه. صحيح الإسناد. Urwa commented on the verse, lower the wing of humility to them out of mercy. Surah al-Isrā. It means, do not refuse them anything they love. عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه عن نبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال لا يجزي ولد والده إلا أن يجده مملوكا فيشتريه فيعتقه. Abū Hurayra said, the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, a child cannot repay his father unless he finds him as a slave and then buys him and sets him free. Authentic. عن أبي بردة أنه شهد بن عمر ورجل يماني يطوف بالبيت حمل أمه وراء ظهره يقول إني لها بعيرها المذلل إن أذعرت ركابها لم أذعر ثم قال يا ابن عمر أتراني جزيتها قال لا بزرفة ولا بزفرة واحدة ثم طاف ابن عمر فأتى المقام فصلى ركعتين ثم قال يا ابن أبي موسى إن كل ركعتين تكفران ما أمامهما. صحيح الإسناد. Abū Burda, Abū Mūsā related that Ibn Umar saw a Yamani man going around the house making tawāf while carrying his mother on his back and chanting, I am her humble camel. If her riding animal breaks loose, I remain in her service. Then the man asked Ibn Umar, what do you think? Do you think that I ever paid her? He replied, no, not even for a single groan of the birth pangs she suffered. Then Ibn Umar performed tawāf and came to Maqām Ibrāhīm and prayed 2 rak'at. He said, O Ibn Abū Mūsā, every 2 rak'at make up for everything, expiates that has happened before them. Authentic chain.
Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. This is from al-Adab al-Mufrad of Imam Bukhari's book with regards to the high morals and etiquettes of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The first is the tafsir of Urwa radiyallahu anhu, who was the nephew of Aisha radiyallahu anha. And he was one of the famous tabi'een and a student from amongst the tabi'een. He mentions, or he gives the tafsir, a very brief tafsir with regards to the statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَاخْفِضْ لَهُمَا جَنَاحَ الذُّلِّ مِنَ الرَّحْمَةِ, in which Allah is saying, lower the wing of humility, lower the wing of humility out of mercy for your parents. Meaning, out of mercy for your parents, lower the wing of humility. Now, what happens when a bird wants to go and fly? What does it do? It spreads its wing. It makes it go up. But what happens if the bird wants to land? It brings in the wings. It makes it more humble. And so this is a very beautiful description, both ma'nawiyan, both outwardly and metaphorically, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving this type of an example. That if you want to humble yourself, if you want to humble yourself before your parents, then you have to go ahead and do what? Bring them under your wings. And if you're going to be someone who is going to tajabbar wa takabbar, you're going to be proudful and boastful, then you're going to jump on them, and you think now because you're able to speak and you have a degree and you are able to, you have a job, and so you will go over their heads. And so also the scholars, they mention with regards to what does it mean dhul? What's the meaning of dhul? And what's the meaning of dhalil? Right? Dhalla yadhullu wa dhullan wa dhillan fahuwa dhalulun. And also the meaning of al-dhalil. Al-dhalil, it is actually a very negative word. It means someone who is weak, someone who is insulted or insulting. As opposed to the word that Allah He used over here. Because dhalil in the Quran is used against the mushrikeen and against the kuffar, that they are dhalil. Whereas when it comes to the believers, Allah doesn't use the word dhalil. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, أذلة على المؤمنين, يعني رؤوف ورحيم. So the word dhalul, which is the same, which is from what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is using, وَخْفِضْ لَهُمَا جَنَاحَ الذُّلِّ, lower to them the wing of humility. He used the word dhul, which means that you lower the wing of mercy, not the wing of weakness, because parents don't want you to be weak. They don't want to see you being someone who is run all over. They don't want to see you being degraded or humiliated. Even though if you just change one or two, you will find that dhalil and dhalul it comes from the same root letters. But yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not use the word dhalil, because that would imply something very negative for you, which even your parents don't want for you, that he is dhalil. No, Allah used the word dhul, which means that you are merciful, you are humble, but in a merciful way. You are loving them, as opposed to being someone who is in a disgraceful way. The other hadith, hadith number 10, is a hadith of Abū Hurayra radiallahu anhu, in which the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he gave an example, a very good example. He said, a child can never repay back his father for all the things the father has done for him. From what? From the time the father. He can never repay back the father from the time he brought him into this world. He can never, except in one condition, except in one scenario, and that is if his son ever finds his father to be a slave. Now, why did the Prophet ﷺ use this kind of an example? A slave does not own himself. It is as if he does not exist. So when the son buys his father and sets him free, what does he do? He gives him a life. Now he is in control of his own free will, his own body, everything. His son gave his father that life, just like how the father gave him life. So now they're the same. And so this is the only time the son can pay back his father. that if you find your father being a slave of someone else, you find him, you buy him, and you set him free, then someone can say that you have repaid what your father did by being a means of bringing you into this world, by being a means of bringing you into this world. And this is an indication in the second hadith, in which Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, he saw a Yamani man who is doing tawāf while his mother is on his back. And I'm sure we have seen this in our times as well, where certain people from certain parts of the country, because of their mother or their father, they're so weak they're unable to even walk. And because of poverty, because of so many things, they are saving money for an entire 60 years. Maybe even the money that was gifted to them when they were born. And their mother is saving that money with the intention that one day this kid is going to go for Hajj. Subhanallah. This is how much love some people in the world have for visiting the house of Allah and performing the Hajj and fulfilling one of the pillars of Islam. So you will find that he has brought his son, but he's unable to walk and they can't afford to use the wheelchair. So he puts him, and I've seen this every single time I go. You see him and they tie him up so that he doesn't fall. It's either the mother or the father. And then he's doing tawāf. So this person was also doing this from Yemen. And so he asked the Prophet, he asked Ibn Umar, do you think I have paid my mom back? Because he travels from Yemen with his mom like this. And he's doing tawāf. He said, not even, you didn't even pay her back for the one oof sound that she made. The one groan sound that she made. Because labor has several stages and different levels of pain. He said, you can never repay back your mother because of what she went through in terms of the pregnancy itself, then the labor itself, and then the rada'ah, the nursing, and then the tarbiyah, and then the expenditure upon you and everything. You didn't even pay her back for that one cry she did when she was in labor. And so both the verse and the verse of the Quran and these two ahadith tell us the importance of our parents, both the father and the mother, that we can really never pay them back. And it really makes us wonder what happens nowadays. You can say, okay, my father, there's no slavery nowadays, right? You can barely find your father, or anyone can barely find his father being a slave. There are instances in which modern day slavery is coming up in some parts of the world. But nonetheless, the majority of the people will not find their father being in a state of bondage. But what can they find? Very common nowadays. Huh? Who said that? Yeah, very good. Debt. Debt is a type of slavery nowadays. And what do you think the attitude of some children are towards their father when it comes to debt? Do they pay them? No. The most we could say is probably they give them a loan. So what is he doing? The son, he's giving his father a loan to pay off that debt. Whether it's a credit card debt, whether it's medical debts. So basically he's taking him out from the bondage of other people, and he's owning his father now. Is everyone with me? Have you really set your father free from that debt? From that mortgage of the house? So this is one type of modern day that modern day bondage, because being in debt, you are at the mercy of your creditor. He could raise the interest even though it's haram. He could go ahead and demand it all at once, and he will do so many things. Snatch your sleep away. You want to buy something, you think twice. You want to go somewhere, you think twice because of your debt. You basically don't have freedom over your own health. You don't have freedom over anything. Your time, your body, they owe you. They own you. And so if you are a son who's able to help your father when he is in debt, you should do so without you making him owe you back in return. Because what we mentioned in the previous lessons is anta wa maluka li abik, you and your father belong, you and your wealth belong to your father. And so why am I keep on bringing this up? Because subhanallah, we are getting this question on a daily basis. This is a question we're getting almost on a daily basis. That one of the question was, can my father have a say in my wealth? Can my father have a say in my wealth? Can he tell me how to spend it, where to spend it, why not to spend it, in all of this? Yeah? And people are talking about creating different bank accounts, and they're still 15 years old, having their own bank account when they're still. Some of them they just got born and they're having their own bank accounts. And people have applied to the courts, and while they are minors, they have applied to the courts through some, maybe shaitan put this in their mind. They applied to the courts, there's a particular legal word, status. Yeah, it's emancipation, which basically means that any wealth that you have, your parents cannot touch it. Because there are some people who have millions, maybe from inheritance or whatnot. And so they will go ahead and pay the lawyers $100,000 to apply for the course and argue he needs to be emancipated from his father, from his mother. So that way they cannot have a say in their wealth. And these things are just getting every day more creative and more worse. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us, to guide our children, to make them realize the importance of their parents. We ask Allah to forgive our parents, have mercy upon them, help us to understand their status before Allah, allow us to achieve and obtain their pleasure in this world, so Allah can be pleased with us. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.
أيها المكسور قل لي هل يديم الله كسرا